Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this, I think, monumental first Politico California Summit. I'm David Siders, Senior News Editor. Welcome, Senator.
Hey, welcome back.
Yes, thank you. And before, we have a lot of ground to cover, I think, but I am interested in your reaction to the tragedy unfolding in Minnesota this morning.
Yeah, no, the tragedy is exactly what it is. For the few of you who may not have heard by now, yet another tragic mass shooting in America this morning in the state of Minnesota, just outside, I think, the Twin Cities, at a Catholic school. A couple of children, fatalities, many wounded. Monitoring reports still waiting to hear more about the potential motive, what drove the shooter, et cetera. But a reminder of gun violence in America. You know, one of the many examples of how California has been a leader in terms of smart gun safety regulations, but the missing links being other states that don't have the strict requirements that we have in California, and the consequences of that. It's not normal. More than thoughts and prayers are needed, but let's just all keep the families in Minnesota in our hearts.
Well, let's start with that. You mentioned California has its own much different, I think, set of rules and policies and ideas maybe than Washington, and also the political power here is different. Democrats are out of power in Washington. Could you have a greater influence in the governor's mansion?
What makes you say that?
Well, my colleagues reported this week, Melanie Mason and Jeremy White, that there was polling in the field with your name attached, or asked.
What did it say?
I'm curious if you've seen it.
I have not. Look, and I appreciate the question. I've gotten just a few calls and text messages here over the last 48 hours, but in all seriousness, I'm focused. I'd encourage everybody to focus on this November 4th. Special election this November, Proposition 50, not just about redistricting and new lines in California. There's a greater context for this redistricting fight. It started with Texas, and California is responding. There may be others. But if you really zoom out and take a bigger picture, given the work that I'm doing in the Senate and in Congress, in the minority, very far cry from the first 4 years I was there, normally, a party in power would be so proud of their accomplishments, so proud of their record, that they would run on it in a midterm election and hope to continue to stay in power, stay in the majority. This is not that. I think my Republican colleagues, and especially the White House, know how unpopular and damaging what they're doing is, from gutting Medicare, nutrition assistance programs, really all these other areas of budget cuts, to underwrite tax breaks for billionaires, threatening Social Security now. That is not very popular. So their only hope of staying in power beyond next November is to rig the system.
And I want to talk to you about redistricting too,
Sure.
and their claims of rigging the system. But let me just first entertain this a little bit more. Are you ruling out a run for governor?
Focusing on this November.
So it sounds to me like you're not ruling out a run for governor.
Sounds like you're going to keep asking.
I'm curious, why? Is there anything that would be appealing about it?
Look,
And then I'll be done.
I love California, right? And I've had the privilege and the honor of serving in so many different capacities. First as a member of the Los Angeles City Council, then as president of the City Council, 2 terms in the state Senate. So when I say welcome back, it's like, it's good to be home. So many years here, working on a number of issues. Chairing the Energy Committee at an exciting time. Served as Secretary of State. I was halfway through my second term as Secretary of State when I got the call from Governor Newsom asking if I'd be willing to fill the vacancy created by then Vice President Kamala Harris. And for the last 4.5 years, serving as the California voice in the United States Senate. So at every stage of my career, incredible honor, incredible responsibility. I've tried to do my best to help improve people's lives. And so hope to continue to serve in some capacity for the foreseeable future, but so much is at stake in the midterms, which makes this November so very consequential. That truly is my focus.
We heard that it came up this morning at a meeting with some labor folks, and that you might, in that meeting, not have ruled it.
Well, when you subscribe to Politico, it creates questions that are going to be asked everywhere that I go.
So did you rule it out in the meeting with the labor union?
I told them they ought to focus on November 4th, which is only 69 days away.
Let's talk about that. The leader or the top Republican in the California Assembly outlining a plan for a two-state solution. I'm curious what you make of that. Is this all? It's a whole thing, and is it all going too far?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily real, and so let's focus on what's real, the real threats to our democracy, the real threats to our economy, the real threats to quality of life for working families, because I know the devastation that's happening as a result of this administration in Washington that's out of control, and the lack of accountability and guardrails by the Republican majority in Congress.
Okay, and in fact, you've called this the fight of our time. You've said we were fighting fire with fire. It does strike me in this rhetoric, this is not exactly the Democrats of when they go low, we go high. Is that era over? The extreme way in which this administration is trying to make changes, destroying institutions. I mean, just look at what they've done through the budget itself. You know, we talked about healthcare already, talked about risk to Social Security already. The way they're going about immigration enforcement, we feel it more in California than anywhere else in the country. It's increasingly cruel and far from the focus on dangerous, violent criminals that they like to talk about. You know, at that press conference a couple months ago, and I know, you asked me about it backstage, one of the points I was trying to make that day was I was hearing anecdotally that the vast majority of people that were being detained, that were being arrested, that were being even deported, many without due process, did not have criminal convictions. They may be undocumented, but they're otherwise hardworking, tax-paying people that the first Trump administration deemed essential at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's not right. That's not what they're talking about. That's not what they say they were doing, but the devastation impact on families and communities is real in California. And the only way to rein it in, if the Republican majority won't do their part as a co-equal branch of government, is for us to flip Congress and begin to do that next year while we speak up and push back. Do you see an end to it, though? Is this just a race to the bottom, gerrymandering back everywhere in a matter of years?
No, I think the solution for this would be independent redistricting for all 50 states in the country. That has been proposed in Congress, that has been voted on in Congress. Only Democrats have supported those proposals, and Republicans continue to vote no, and that should tell you a lot.
Well, so you say Republicans continue to vote no, and that should tell you a lot. This proposal from the governor and Democrats in the legislature and Congress is an expiration date on the gerrymandering. It goes back to the independent commission in 2030. What are you confident that by 2030 Republicans will not be gerrymandering?
I can't guarantee that, but I can say that by then we will have gotten through these midterms. Right. We'll have gotten through the end of the second Trump administration, and we should be better as a result of that.
You think that even the Republicans following the Trump administration, the next iteration of Republicans, you expect to be what you would consider to be more responsible in their governing?
You know, I've been in this business a long time. I have to be an optimist, right? You got to hope that better days are ahead. That's why we do what we do.
I guess what I'm wondering is why put an expiration date on Democrats' fight? Why not keep these 5 seats and then continue to look for some more?
Yeah, no, look, because we believe in the independent redistricting piece, but the moment that we're living in right now is so extreme, so unprecedented, so dangerous, it does call for a temporary measure like this.
Okay, I'd like to turn to immigration. You've mentioned it already in the remarks, but it's part of a fight that you've been a part of for all of your political career. You have a bill that would make it easier for some immigrants in the U.S. to qualify for legal status, but you've also, on this stage, been very realistic about where Republicans are in their votes. So where does this leave Democrats?
Yeah. So the bill he's referencing is known as the Registry bill. It's a proposal that would simply update existing law and provide a step towards legalization for anybody who's been in the United States more than 7 years and has paid their taxes, no criminal history, et cetera, come out of the shadows, take a step towards legalization and maybe a green card. It's actually been on the books for 100 years. the deadline or eligibility date by which you qualify has been adjusted a couple of times over the last 100 years, the last time under Republican President Ronald Reagan. So the law is still there, but just do the math. You would have had to have been here more than 50 some odd years to be eligible today. If we change the date, the registry date, to fit modern times, 7 years or more, there's millions of people, not just in California, but across the country, that would be able to take that step and benefit from that. I also think it'd be good for our national security. I think it'd be great for our economy. And by not creating a new bureaucracy, I think it's a smart way forward. The reason I think, as crazy as you may think I am, that this could be a time, the general public, not just here in California, but polls across the country have suggested the general public disagrees with how this administration has gone about their ICE raids and detention and enforcement. They see the cruelty, they see the violence, they see the injustice, and public opinion is starting to turn. I hear from my Republican colleagues in the Senate, mostly behind closed doors, but when even Steve Scalise, the #2 Republican in the House of Representatives, is getting it from constituents back home and suggests there ought to be a better way, then maybe, just maybe, something is turning. There's an opening there to be able to do something smart and different.
You're absolutely right about the polling. If we'd been sitting here 2 years ago, and 2 years ago you were optimistic about a polling shift, and I think I would have been skeptical of that, and clearly there has been a shift in the polling. But the Republicans who talked to you behind the scenes, who are they?
Want the list of names?
I do. I'd like to know what Republicans you're talking to. And are you talking to these Republicans about this legislation?
Yeah, I'm talking to all my both sides of the aisle, and that's, I think, one of the frustrations. I'm sure you've heard this from others about Washington, D.C. You know, behind closed doors, what people are willing to say, but the lack of political will to say something publicly or to vote against Trump. That's part of the crisis that we're in right now. That's the reason Congress, last time I checked on paper, we're still a co-equal branch of government, right? The checks and balances written into the Constitution, but only if you exercise it. So as public opinion continues to shift, I think the political pressures and realities and considerations of Republican members will shift. That and flipping at least one, if not both, chambers of Congress next year, be a whole new world.
Is there a Republican who you especially like talking to about this?
Anybody and everybody who may have an open mind.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's hard, but I have to. I can't give up. I owe it to the people that I represent here in California and similar immigrant families and working families across the country to keep trying.
Do you think Trump has seen the polling and he doesn't seem to be backing off of his immigration agenda at all? Do you think that even if you had a groundswell of support among Republicans, maybe in the Senate and in the House, do you have any optimism that Trump might change his mind? Could he be the president who ushers in immigration, what Democrats would say reform?
Well, I've heard that too. Like maybe this is the only Nixon can go to China potential moment for him. The question isn't, can Trump change his mind? I think he's changed his mind too much, right? Look at what's happening with the tariff wars. On one day, off one day, 25%, 10%, 50%, depending on the day or who he's hearing from last. On immigration, let's all go back to a couple months ago, that Homeland Security press conference. As difficult as that experience was, but it helped shine a light on what was happening, at the time in Los Angeles, but it raised awareness across the board. The very next day, there was a little covered statement that Donald Trump made. He's hearing from employers in different industries, and maybe, just maybe, I should kind of ease up on how they're going about detaining workers in hotels, agricultural fields,
sure, so we know he's back and forth.
He's hearing it from the business owner community, right, and from industry. Sadly, the weekend came and went, and on Monday it was back to no. We're gonna double down and target blue states and blue cities.
So the Nixon goes to China proposition, do you think it's realistic with this president?
Probably unlikely, but I got to keep hope alive. I got to keep pressing the issue with him, with Republicans, with Democrats, with everybody, until we finally do what's right for the country and modernize our immigration system.
And in fact, you and other Democrats do continue to push on the issue and introduce legislation.
And look, we're in Sacramento, the capital of the great state of California, right? And so I want to ask everybody to keep repeating to your networks what I repeat ad nauseum every day in the Capitol, reminding everybody that while California, yes, is the most populous state in the nation, the most diverse state in the nation, home to more immigrants, both documented and undocumented than any state in the nation, this is the same California that has become the fourth largest economy in the world. And it's not despite our immigrant population, it's because of the contributions of immigrants as workers, as consumers, and as entrepreneurs. Just from that vantage point, again, if you want to target dangerous, violent criminals, by all means, there's no disagreement there. But the vast majority of immigrants and the vast majority of people targeted by this administration are not dangerous, violent criminals. They're making our communities and our economy stronger. That should be something to emulate, replicate, and build on, not to demonize.
I appreciate you pulling the conversation back to California. And in the few minutes we have left here, let me ask you about this situation going on with UCLA and the Trump administration's demand for, I think, what the governor has called a ransom payment. UC officials are in talks with the White House. Should they consider settling?
I can't say they shouldn't consider, but it all depends on what they're willing to, budge on or agree to. I don't know what's on the table, to be honest. But we can't ignore the context here, right? This is an administration who's not satisfied with trying to bend the judiciary to their will, one of the other co-equal branches of government, when it's willing to live up to that responsibility. Not satisfied, this administration, with trying to bend Congress to its will. They've taken on media organizations, they've taken on universities, they've taken on law firms, they've taken on the Smithsonian Institution, really?
Well, do you think any payment or policy change would be appropriate?
If it is maybe minor, negligible in exchange for keeping the funding going on important research and student support programs, maybe. Again, I don't know what's on the table, so I don't want to speculate as to what the guidelines or criteria should be.
That's fair. And you have thoughts about campus free speech, too, I think, and the administration's targeting of, well, some of that speech. Wondered what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so one of the proposals that we're looking at and will probably be introducing here in the next week or two is something that modifies a current authority granted to the Secretary of State to just pull a visa from a student visa.
This is the immigration.
Without criteria, like, okay, I get it if somebody's truly a threat to national security or affiliated with a foreign terrorist organization or something like that, but you can't and shouldn't be able to do that for somebody simply expressing their opinions, as much as you may disagree with it. We have a First Amendment, the right free speech, just like freedom of the press. Freedom to express yourself is fundamental to our democracy, but even that's being abused by this administration.
And legislation to that effect has been introduced in the House, and so what you're considering is...
A Senate companion to that bill.
Got it. Are you talking to any Republicans about that?
As soon as we get back from this break, day after Labor Day.
Let me ask you one more question here, and this is about your, before you were a senator, you were Secretary of State. And I am interested in the Trump administration's demand for voter rolls, information there. And I'm curious if you've thought about that and what you think there might be the consequences of that.
Yeah, so they're at it again, right? The first Trump administration, I was serving as Secretary of State, he set up this sham commission on election integrity based on all the conspiracy theories, election denier accusations that he continues to believe, that there's rampant voter fraud across the country. We know there isn't. And so he asked, not just of California, but all 50 states, give me not just your voter file, but give me all this personal information on every registered voter in your state. They're trying, again, not by way of a commission, they've now have charged the Department of Justice with this exercise. They're trying to tee up massive purging of voter rolls in key states. In addition to that, either the executive orders or the legislation that has been introduced by Republicans to make it harder for eligible Americans to register to vote, stay registered to vote, or actually cast their ballot. And you tie that together with the redistricting efforts that they're putting forward in Texas and probably more states to come, That's their strategy for trying to maintain control next November because they know their agenda and their record is damaging to the country.
Is there anything that you think Democrats should do on voter security or on voter or elections operations or maintenance that you think would be good for Democrats to do politically?
I think if all 49 other states adopted the California model on making multiple secure opportunities for people who are eligible to register to vote, to cast their ballot in person, by mail, early voting, day of, et cetera, with all the security measures that we have in place, that would be great for democracy.
I just want to pull it back maybe to the beginning then too. The California model, in this redistricting fight, do we risk losing something about the California model and becoming just one, albeit a big, part of the partisan players?
No, I think, again, the stakes are so high. This is a unique moment in time. We have to do what it takes to ensure the integrity of next November's elections. And then work longer term to advance independent redistricting in all 50 states in the nation. I think that's the way to go.
Senator, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.